Hi, I'm Katie Cat, and this is our Wednesday AstroTarot. I'm going to start out by reading the cards, and as usual, I've been reading with a deck that I actually initially hand drew in 2011 and 2012, and then I got them printed last year. My hopes and aim is to get them printed and available for sale, but I've been a little bit limited on funds to do that, and if you are a close friend of mine, you also likely know that I recently got some news that I have to relocate or find a new place to live in the next couple of months. So that's put some stress on me. And of course, I'm feeling it astrologically. So I am going to offer a class here in a couple of weeks talking about the transits that happen astrologically and how they show up in our lives. Because I, after all, am experiencing this one in a very intense way based on where I have planets set up in my chart, and it's putting a lot of pressure on me, and I assume I'm not the only person experiencing this and navigating this. You know, we're all navigating it in our own ways, but those of us that have placements, you know, in any of the fixed signs like Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, and Scorpio, we're all experiencing it rather intensely, possibly by way of challenge, being called to task. And of course, if you have strong placements in water signs or any of the cardinal signs, you're going to be feeling some intensity coming in too. But it's all really dependent on where you have planets in your natal chart, because there are, after all, 360 degrees in a natal chart wheel. And when we're born, we each have the planetary placements in certain positions in our chart. And depending on when you're born, you might have a planet in a specific degree that's really being triggered by some of the transits that are happening now or in particular times. So I'm going to be offering a class to just kind of walk people through that, so we're not all just shaking our fist at the sky wondering what all this pressure is for. But we have to consider that anytime there is a pressure, it's asking something to come into form, right? Even when, you know, we look at usually don't hear car alarms out where I live, but it does happen occasionally. But you know, depending on when you were born, those planets are going to show up in that way, in a more intense way, because they're triggering those kind of anchors in your chart. So I'm going to be offering that class in a couple of weeks on April 15th. If you are in my local area, I am in the Paonia, North Fork Valley area. So it's going to be a live class. I am going to record it for people who would like to listen to it as well. So today's tarot, we have an opening card of the Eight of Cups. Our challenge that we're working with today is the High Priestess. This is a major arcana energy. The way we're going to get through the challenge is by way of the Two of Swords, and then the ultimate outcome that we have coming in is the Four of Pentacles, clarified by the 13th major arcana, also known as the Death card, which is rather intense to end on. So we had the ultimate clarity of the King of Swords, or the King of Air. So what's interesting to me and what stands out to me in the cards that came in today is that we kind of have this opening energy of someone who is walking away from the highs and lows of emotional things. It's like there's something that they have to really work with, and so they're isolating themselves. They're walking away from these 8 cups. Now, in the tarot system, if you look at the cards and look at all the cups lined up in a row, you'll see that the 3 of Cups is like this elation of happiness, and the 5 of Cups is this loss and renewal, like loss or renewal card. So they're both combined here in this cards, and we see this figure in the background walking away and walking into the mountains. So in a lot of ways, they're walking away from a situation so that they can really go on an internal journey. The challenge that we have that's coming in, is this High Priestess energy. We see that she's sitting down. The way we're going to get through the energy is the Two of Swords. She's also sitting down. The ultimate outcome is the Four of Pentacles. He's also sitting down. So there's a lot of energy that's like in this energy of almost like internal processing, which is rather interesting because we have so many planets right now in the sign of Aries, which is this very like initiating energy, but it's almost as if we are coming to some clarity before we figure out how we want to act and where we want to act, because perhaps we're carrying a lot and really processing a lot right now in our lives. Now, the challenge coming in as the High Priestess is a card of intuition, and it's a card of waiting and allowing things to come to the surface. You know, the High Priestess is carrying this scroll underneath her cape, which is the Torah. It's the secrets of life. And when we are looking at what's going on by way of the sky right now, the moon is waxing, right? It's coming to a position of being full, and it will be full on April 6th. So there's a timing that's being lended into the reading right now where it's like things are coming to the surface. There's things that are in motion. And if we look at the environment, this is the time of year where, you know, the water that's at the deepest depths of the lake is being turned over and brought to the surface to bring new life and to bring new experiences. It's like this circulation process. And so if you are experiencing some intensity in life right now, consider that it is trying to draw up some of your forces that you have been perhaps lying dormant all winter, or perhaps even longer than that. Now, the way that we're going to come through the challenge came in as the Two of Swords, clarified by this, or ultimate outcome with the Four of Pentacles, clarified by the Death card, right? Another intense card. And then, of course, the King of Swords. So there is this kind of budgeting of resources that we're doing, where we see another person who's like not necessarily outside in the big world. They are enclosed in this brick wall, and they're, you know, thinking about resources. The resources are on their mind, resources are on their heart. They're trying to figure out what resources they can stable underneath their feet. And there is this quality of stability to it because it is a number 4, right? So we're thinking about how do we stabilize ourselves in this process. And also, you know, this interesting clarity behind that, which came in as the Death card. And this is a rebirthing process, okay? So whenever people see the Death card, they tend to be really intimidated by it because we see this skeleton that seems to be going to harvest in this garden that, you know, are body parts and things. But this quality of, you know, cutting your losses and also, you know, coming to the truth of a situation and burning the bridge behind you is in a lot of ways a rebirthing process, because you're letting go of that dead weight, right? It's like if you're in a situation that is very frustrating, I ask, does it really serve you to, you know, fester over it and, you know, rile yourself up over it? Or is it perhaps more useful for you to look at what you're dealing with and put your energy and effort toward that? So it's a really powerful time. And when we consider that the major arcana of the Death card is governed, you know, by the sign of Scorpio, which is ruled by Mars, and of course Pluto, there's some interesting things going on astrologically that is hinting to, in addition to that High Priestess card that we had showing up as the challenge, which is ultimately like our emotions and what we have that is going on underneath the surface within us. Now, the timeline that we're looking at right now, right? Today is the 29th of March. In about a week's time, we're going to have a full moon. And the full moon is going to be in the sign of Libra, which is actually in, you know, the polar opposite position by way of the natal chart, or by way of the astrological chart, right? So right now we have the sun in Aries, we have Chiron in Aries, we have Jupiter in Aries, Mercury is moving through Aries as well. We have this Uranian energy up in Taurus, and we have Venus up in Taurus as well. Now, what's interesting to me about the Scorpio energy showing up in the reading is that we have to see that while I don't have it marked here, right now we have the North and South Node positioned in opposite positions, of course. So the South Node is in Scorpio, really pointing to that which we need to let go and work with. And then we have the North Node, which is up in Taurus, which is in really close alignment to that Venus-Uranus energy. And it is slowly approaching the energy of Aries because, the North Node is actually moving visually backwards, right? So why is that interesting to me? Well, for me particularly, just as an example, if you know what's going on in my life, I have a stellium of planets in Scorpio. My sun is at 2 degrees of Scorpio. So right now it is in a trine relationship with this Saturn energy that just went into Pisces, in addition to this Mars energy, which is up in Cancer, because trines are typically in positions zodiacally, there we go, that are in the same element. So we see this kind of ease or help by way of trine for me right now, by way of Scorpio, Pisces and Cancer, and those positions of my sun being triggered by Saturn, which is all about responsibility in relationship and business and in life, as well as friends, which Mars is up there kind of initiating this kind of help for me right now. Meanwhile, right, with all of my planets that are going on in Scorpio, it's in a square relationship with a lot of other things that are happening right now astrologically. So for instance, because I have 5 planets in Scorpio, and Scorpio is a fixed sign, it's considered fixed water. Any other positions by transit that are in fixed signs are going to pose a challenge for me, because they're going to be triggering that anchor for me and my essence and my sun position, because my sun is positioned at 2 degrees of Scorpio in my 3rd house. So that means that this Pluto positioning, which is just entering into Aquarius at 0 degrees, is in square relationship to my Scorpio energy. And I just mentioned the South Node, which is basically sitting 2 degrees away from my sun. The North Node is sitting, in direct opposition in Taurus. But interestingly enough, another aspect that's happening to me specifically right now, and also to anyone who was born around the same time period that I am, there's this Uranian opposition right now happening with us, because Uranus is in direct polar opposite position to where Uranus was at when we were born. So for me, Uranus was at 15 degrees of Scorpio in my 3rd house. And currently we have Uranus up here in, I believe, 16 degrees of Taurus. So it's in direct opposite, and it is triggering by opposition my Uranus, which is a big change and a big shift in my life. Now, there are really big shifts and big changes in my life, which is, and some of them just happened just a couple of days ago, and it is putting a lot of pressure on me, particularly to kind of level up things in my life and to really take a sober look at where I put my energy, where I lose my energy, and where I can be self-sabotaging. And in a lot of ways, we have to look at the fact that we have 24 hours a day, and it doesn't really do us any service to sit and turn over things that cause us angst and cause us unnecessary suffering. If you're under a lot of pressure, it's like you have to redirect your sails to take you to land, right? Or to take you out of the storm. But sometimes you can use that storm as a way to carry yourself out of a situation that perhaps wasn't actually able to sustain you in the long run. So I do encourage people to reconsider your perspective if you feel like you're going through some hard things. And I, for one, can say that anytime a big storm has come into my life by way of a big change, it, in a lot of ways, turns over, the waters. It brings something up to the surface that perhaps I hadn't engaged before because I wasn't under that pressure. And I like to, draw the connection between, faceted crystals and how they get shaped and formed underground, in the dark, under pressure, and they come out and they come to the surface, and depending on how you look at them, you can see clouds and you can see rainbows and you can see clarity, and you can sometimes even see a whole nother world. And in many ways, I've come to look at each and every one of us as a crystal, and that we go through life and we are being shaped and formed, and how we look at our lives really depends on the facet that we are focused on. So I send a lot of love to you. Of course, if you are interested in a reading, if you want to look at your transits and what are going on astrologically for you, reach out and we will set up some time. If you are interested in any of my art or commissioning one of my astrologically inspired art pieces, you can reach out to me at rootsofalchemy@gmail.com, or check out my current art pieces that I have available to be shipped out at rootsofalchemy.com, the website. And then of course I will be offering a class teaching about transits in a couple of weeks, and that will be listed on my website here within the coming days. I send you a lot of love and a good wish, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now. Mwah.